All the Voices, that's the name of this new devotional series. And last time we talked about the gate, and we're unpacking John chapter 10. Another verse in this chapter says that the shepherd knows the sheep by name. And last time we talked about the gate and how Jesus is the gate, and he is the one that allows us in. But we know that thieves and robbers exist and that there are other voices calling to the sheep. But John 10 says that the shepherd calls his sheep by name. And knowing that fact is very important in hearing and recognizing his voice. Maybe you'll remember the story of Samuel in the Bible when God called him in 1 Samuel 3. The chapter begins by saying the word of the Lord was rare in those days, but on one particular night, this little boy Samuel was lying down in the house of God near where the ark was, and that ark signified God's presence, so Samuel was near to the presence of God. God called Samuel, and Samuel didn't recognize God's voice. He thought it was Eli the priest. So he ran to Eli and said, "What do you want?" And Eli said, "It wasn't me." God called Samuel again after he laid back down to go to sleep, and this time Samuel ran a second time to Eli the priest, and Eli said he didn't call him and to go lay back down. A third time he was called, and Eli said, "Next time you hear the voice, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" It says in verse 7 that Samuel did not yet know the Lord and that the Lord had not been revealed to him, so that makes sense that he would not recognize his voice. But the third time, Samuel did recognize God's voice, and he said, "Here I am." So let's look back at who this boy Samuel was in the previous chapter. It says the priest's sons, Eli's sons, were misfits, and they treated God with contempt. But it says Samuel was always ministering to the Lord, grew up in the presence of the Lord. Remember, he was laying by the ark, and he grew in stature and favor with God and the people. All of this before he ever even heard God's voice or recognized it. I find so many things interesting in this story. God knew Samuel's name, he called it out loud, but Samuel had only known Eli's voice, and so that's the voice he ran to instead of God. When we're born, some of us are born into families that practice the presence of God through worship, prayer, and love, and all the things. Some of us have nothing but trouble from the onset, but every family, even the best of families, are full of flawed people. We hear all the voices that surround us, mothers and fathers, aunts, uncles, friends, as we grow and mature. But the cool takeaway from this story is that when our children, or when we grow and mature, we will eventually hear our name called, and we might run to the familiar first. But if we as parents are careful to place our kids in positions where they are near the presence of the Lord, give them opportunities to grow in the Word, there will be one particular night when they hear the Father's voice above all and answer the call. I truly believe that. So be encouraged. The shepherd knows his sheep by name, and he's calling for them. The gate's wide open now because of Jesus, day and night, to come in and live. And he knows us by name, and when he calls, we will hear him. And we can rest assured that our children will if we just keep them connected to the presence of the Lord, train them in the right way, and pray for them. One of these nights, the familiar voices will wane, and the voice of the Lord will grow strong.